So we want to talk about stacking, right? The idea is, especially if you're in a larger tournament, which is what a lot of best ball is in larger tournaments, the idea is that you are trying to maximize points. This is swing for the fences type. This is not the area to try to get conservative. Just a middle of the pack team is not going to win because you can't improve on it over the course of a season. So you're really swinging for the fences. So the idea is that if you can stack a team, if you can basically say, if here's a team that I think is really kind of interesting, like an obvious thing is like the Chiefs. I'm going to try to get Mahomes, Kelsey, maybe Rice goes a little bit later. I'm going to try to get, Pacheco. I'll take a flyer on, Hollywood Brown.
Worthy.
Right? Mm-hmm. So the idea is that when those teams score, if those teams score a lot of points, when Mahomes throws a touchdown pass to Marquise Brown, obviously you get twice the amount of points for that one play. So the idea is you're trying to maximize every roster position, and that's stacking is a popular term that happens. Stacking makes the most sense in best ball, I should say.
Right, and you don't have to worry about, getting this touchdown pass from this quarterback on one team and then getting a touchdown catch from a receiver on another team. It's like last season you probably would have stacked Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, but you also would have had Gabe Davis in the tuck because once every 6 weeks he's going off. That would have been a perfect example from last season. This season, I would say if you get your quarterback early, you get that really late quarterback, a guy like Bryce Young and maybe Xavier Legette, or because you already had Deontay Johnson, but a guy like Legette could have those spike weeks, and that's what you're searching for, those guys with that high upside and those players that have those spike weeks when you never know when they're going to come. In regular fantasy football leagues, they'll make you mad, right? Because they'll get that 36 points, they'll be on your bench because they had 3 points the 3 weeks before that,
That's
right? But those 36 points automatically go into your starting lineup.
It does change your mindset as far as which players you're targeting. Like Legette, Christian Watson, Hollywood Brown, George Pickens, Mike Williams, Tyler Lockett, Darnell Mooney. These are guys that I wrote down that drive me nuts in fantasy, in like regular redraft fantasy leagues. Right, and so you need to get those guys on your best ball team because you're going to get their spike weeks. Like it's going to happen when they catch 2 or 3 touchdowns. They're in your lineup. When they go 0 for 4 with no yards or 5 yards or whatever, they're on your bench. Okay, so you don't have to be driven nuts by determining, okay, Pickens is playing this guy and that guy, and he's going to get that coverage, and here's the spread, and the quarterback's this guy. You don't have to worry about any of that. You put Pickens on your team, and you benefit from his huge weeks, and he will have huge weeks.
Yep. I think when I think of best ball historically, I think of Gabe Davis being a kind of definitional player, like Will Fuller back in the day, guys who can go for 150 or guys who can go to 0. Matthew, in terms of stacking, going back to that, is there any team in particular that resonates with you for this season that you really want to get multiple pieces of in this strategy?
I mean, listen, I think there's a lot of obvious, there's the obvious ones. I'll also mention, I think Arizona's pretty interesting. Obviously with Kyler Murray, Marvin Harrison, Trey McBride, I think that's an interesting one. I'll give you some sort of ones that I don't think anyone's ever thinking about, but like, again, we're trying for high variance because you're in your large tournament fields, like everyone, saying, hey, I want to stack the Chiefs. Great. Well, everyone wants to stack the Chiefs. That doesn't help you. Even if you manage to, in your own league, stack the Chiefs, the fact of the matter is that in a large tournament where you're competing against a bunch of other leagues as well, people are going to be doing that. But, I think about a team like the Saints, a Derek Carr, Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed, right? Yeah. Some of those guys as well. Lawrence, you mentioned Carolina. Like, we don't think Bryce Young's going to be good, but he might be. Like, no one thought Geno Smith 2 years was going to be good under Dave Canales. No one thought Jacob Mayfield last year was going to be good, and he was under Dave Canales. So, right, exactly. Like, I mean, Deontay Johnson, Xavier Legette, Bryce Young, and, do you try to grab Jonathan Brooks as well? When they have these spike weeks as well, maybe Bo Nix is good. Maybe Bo Nix and Cortland Sutton and, Marvin Mims or Troy Franklin,
sure.
trying to find correlation. Like you mentioned Jaden Daniels up at the top, Jay, as an attempt to insult me, as if I would ever be insulted by being compared to Jaden Daniels, future MVP, future Hall of Famer Jaden Daniels, future Super Bowl winning quarterback Jaden Daniels. I would never be insulted. But right, I mean, like Jaden Daniels with Terry McLaurin and Jahan Dotson suddenly becomes kind of interesting, right? I mean, again, the idea is just that like when those we know those teams will go off at some point, right? And when you stack a team, and you can even do more than that, right? You could also do like whatever, Austin Eckler, if you were trying to stack commanders. Team stacking basically reduces the number of things you need to get right. And again, we're in a large tournament, so you're really swinging for the fences. It's all, small probabilities anyway, so you might as well just swing for the fences. The idea is that if you get one offense right, and every year there's a couple of offenses that just sort of break out in a way that people don't expect, that if you get that right, then perfect. Because every week, maybe one week it's J.J. McCarthy to Justin Jefferson. Maybe another week it's J.J. McCarthy to Jordan Addison. Maybe Hawkinson comes in towards the end of the year. So that's the idea there is that you're trying to win individual weeks and capture those spike weeks, whereas Denny, as you mentioned in redraft, that's not something you would want to do. But because you have this safety net of like, if they're good, they'll be in my lineup. If they suck, they'll be on my bench. That's the beauty of best ball. It takes the decision-making process out of you. All of your decisions are around the draft.
You mentioned, Matthew, that the Broncos, the Panthers, they probably won't be good. But man, if they are good on offense and you have those stacks, you have a huge edge on the rest of the competition who spent a lot of draft capital in best ball on the Bills, on the Packers, on the Chiefs, on the Lions, on high-powered offenses. But if you get that little sneaky stack in there, it's a huge edge. I wanted to mention a Colts stack that I think Lawrence will be into, if I'm not mistaken here. Anthony Richardson.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, look, if Anthony Richardson comes in the second year and has a big year, somebody's going to come along for the ride. Okay, Michael Pittman obviously is the best candidate here as the clear-cut wide receiver one for the Colts. But you also have A.D. Mitchell, a downfield electric threat. I think that will score touchdowns this year. When he's going to score them, who knows? And that's why he's going to be a very frustrating redraft selection. But in best ball, he's going to be ideal. So if you get Anthony Richardson in your draft, you need to get A.D. Mitchell. You need to get Pittman, maybe even Josh Downs. I like the Colts a lot. Right,
and speaking on that too, just get a team that you feel going to have to throw the ball a lot.
Right.
And going back to Matthew's Commanders, look at the Commanders. Look at them from last season. Sam Howell, that was a big steal last year in best ball. And Terry McLaurin wasn't having a huge game every week.
No.
But somebody was eating off that. But you had Sam Howell, and then you had McLaurin or Curtis Samuel. Sometimes Jahan Dotson. So that was a great example of that last year, where you got great value from that. Whereas to having Lamar last year, when early in the season he had some of those up and down weeks. Yeah. If you had those two quarterbacks, you were winning because Sam Howell was putting up numbers in them games, throwing it 40-plus times a game.
Yep. I'll say as a general rule, too, just in betting fantasy, when you're looking at variance, like one of the best things that you can get is just youth, because there's just more uncertainty when you're dealing with rookies. Like, for instance, like C.J. Stroud comes into the league last year. We don't know what he's going to be. Turns out he's like the 6th best quarterback in football just immediately, and they go from 4 wins to 10, and he has a monster season statistically. So, and Anthony Richardson he's not a rookie technically, but he's basically a rookie. Like, he's barely played in the league.
Sure.
I think J.J. McCarthy as well is a hugely high variance player. Some people think that he's going to be great, and some people think he's going to be terrible. And for best ball, that's what you want, because this guy's got Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison and a really good offensive line and coaching staff. So those are some interesting players.
Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and Rotoworld.com, and I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched, or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest Roto-World fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.